Good afternoon, everybody, and happy Monday. I hope you had a nice break. Um, I need to take attendance here, which I got to get a little more efficient at. So, what I'm going to ask you to do right now while I'm taking attendance is go on to Canvas and go to modules where you should see chapter 25, 26, and upload 25. I think it's titled Whap 25 class notes. I believe that's what it's called. Okay. So try to do that right now, please. And I'm gonna, like I said, do this as quickly as I can. It's not in alphabetical order. All right. Hope everyone had a nice break. Hope everybody's safe. If you traveled, I hope you took precautions and whatnot. I've got a lot to do today, or else I would sit and chat about how your break was and all that good stuff. But just to get in all the activities from this chapter, I'm going to take advantage of the time. Plus, I guess I'll share my screen with you real quick here. You probably already noticed this, but if you go to my Canvas page, there is a schedule here. So you see the updated schedule after Thanksgiving. I think I went over most of this with you. But we only have a 45-minute class now where we used to have a 56-minute class. So when we went, I don't know how many times we changed schedules, but anyways, this is what it looks like. So, and then what I had asked you to upload under modules, hopefully it looks this way for you, is chapters 25 to 26. So if you could upload these class notes, it's kind of where we're going to get started here today. And I'm just going to kind of talk through this with you. And what I want you to do is just update the notes on the document. Okay. And some of this should be a little bit of a review, but I did go back and read the chapter today and was thoroughly unimpressed with how bad it was. And I remember I used to always give a reading supplement. So I'm not giving the same reading supplement I usually do. I'm just going to kind of talk through with you and go over it in notes. And we're still going to do our activity, making poems this week. So, yeah. All right. That being said, let me share this other document. And we'll go. All right. So before you went on the extended break, which was probably really nice, at least, I don't know, it was average. I love being with my kids. I get stir crazy shit in the house all the time. But before that happened, we had talked about the Industrial Revolution. We had talked about the political and economic changes. Now we're really going to be gearing up for how this affected the rest of the world. Okay, and European dominance of the majority of the globe because of the economic, political, and industrial technological advances that they made in the early 1800s, which resulted in dominating the second half of the 1800s. So, first off, renewed imperialism. We can't really talk about renewed imperialism until we talk about the first round of imperialism. If you remember, we went back. Imperialism for Europe really started with the Spanish and the Portuguese, and then everybody, the British caught on, the French caught on pretty heavily, and led to colonies, etc. Okay, that was in the 1600s. Well, breaking it down, let me go back, digress one moment. Imperialism is when one nation or nation state or empire exerts power and influence over a weaker nation or state. And kind of the most classic example of this is the sun never sets on the British Empire. Okay, so that's how imperialistic Britain was throughout the 1700s, and then using their industrial might in the 1800s as well. What types of colonies existed before imperialism was renewed? We had basically three types of colonies. One was just trading posts. Okay. And we've talked about this before, and basically because of a lack of ability to dominate or use military force to work itself into the coast, trading posts were typically along the coastline where they were just a fort or a factory the country controlled. The example of this would be the Portuguese at Elmina, and the Dutch, the Portuguese, and India as well at first. Okay, or even Deshima, Nagasaki in Japan, trading post. Okay, then you had what was known as controlled colonies. An example of a controlled colony was where the European would be the ruler, but they wouldn't encourage settlement by white Europeans. They would use the rule that already existed, and so they would use native rulers under their authority to rule. That's called a controlled colony. That's more expensive than a trading post, but less expensive than a settler colony. Example of this was India until the Sepoy Rebellion, and then the British directly controlled them. The third type of colony then is going to be a settler colony. And it's pretty, I imagine you understand what a settler colony is. That is an example of that would be the United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, where the Europeans made up the majority of the population of either the colony or just the government and directly ruled. And that's because either the natives were killed off in mass numbers or there weren't very many people in the area. South Africa would also be an example. I said Canada, Australia, New Zealand. And eventually they'd be called white dominions, which were states or countries that would get their independence, but still rely on their mother country like Great Britain for trade, resources, and influences. All right, so those existed before renewed imperialism, and one of the reasons why you had these three different types is the money it cost. And remember, mercantilism was the policy before capitalism, and mercantilism really promoted just getting as much stuff as you can, and getting as rich as you can without really taking into regard whatever you're doing to the natives. Okay. All right. So then we kind of have this revival, and a lot of it is due to the Industrial Revolution, and then also the competition that comes up in the second half of the 19th century between European powers and the United States to try to control as much of the world as possible. Okay. And so we're going to use these four forces that stimulated this renewed interest in imperialism for an activity we're going to do here shortly. So you probably know what these are, but we'll go over them here and you can put a simple definition. So nationalism essentially is, pride in your nation. All right. And so that pride would lead to you wanting to say that you had the biggest empire, you had the best colonies, etc. And so there was a lot of nationalistic fervor. Remember how we talked about how Italy unified and Germany unified, and a lot of that was out of wanting to be united. Religious revival was the age-old idea that you can still spread your religion, which Europeans would spread Christianity to the untouched, unconverted areas of the world. So what was left to convert? The interior of Africa, places that were Muslim or Buddhist or Hindu, okay, or animistic or polytheistic, etc. Scientific interest. Charles Darwin and his theory of evolution and the idea of the survival of the fittest would lead to this idea that white Europeans used science as a means to claim that they were the fittest, and thus they should control the world. Now, most of you, if not all of you, understand the hypocrisy behind that. And you understand that this is just a drive to gain more resources to fuel the Industrial Revolution. But Europeans, through a scientific jab at this to justify their gross treatment of anyone who wasn't European, and take it. Lastly, then, I mean, once you've abused, if you remember, we looked at coal production in Britain, and how it was taking more workers and there wasn't coal near the surface anymore, etc. Once you abuse your resources and you run out of resources, your industrial revolution's over. Okay, or you can't live with the luxuries that you had been accustomed to. And so there was a need for new markets to sell things to continue to drive capitalism, and then a new desire to have materials or resources to build more stuff and create more things, okay, to continue to drive the industrial sector. And so what's better than getting some colonies? It's perfect. All right. A couple things then that help facilitate this whole idea. Medicine. One of the big medicines that helped in the scramble for Africa was quinine. 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 So Qui9, quinine. And some of you maybe have heard the idea that the British like gin and tonics. Well, they would put the quinine in tonic water, and then to make it taste better, they would put gin in it, and thus you get a drink that's commonly served in British pubs. But that was to basically allow travel into Asia and Africa without getting sleeping sickness or malaria. New technology, there's a lot of it. Okay, and some of it's fairly obvious, like steamboats, railroads. You have improvement in telegraph lines. You're able to build deeper harbors. New technology included better weapons, larger weapons that could be used on land or on sea, and also included things like the Maxim gun, okay, or the Gatling gun, which is a simple machine gun, okay. Military strength then, superior armies and superior technological advances allowed for bigger weapons, but it also meant that there was kind of a growing demand for a global footprint for these imperialistic powers. And so you needed to have strategic ports. Okay. So, for example, let's use Hawaii. There's a reason why the United States annexed Hawaii. I mean, it was a very important place for the United States to keep goods on the way to the Philippines and to China. And there's many other strategic places, again, that these larger countries, nation states took just to have again, that footprint in different areas of the world other than Western Europe. All right. You guys good with that? Anyone have any questions about anything that I might have missed or said? I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I don't usually give notes on Mondays, but we have to understand this activity. Okay, so we're going to try to keen in on nationalism, religious revival, scientific interest, or industrialism. So one of these four forces for imperialism, okay, right here. This is what we're going to try to use in this activity that I'm going to throw up here, okay? And when I say activity, it's just going to be a picture. And what I want you to do is I want you to try to tell me what force you think is being represented in the picture. Okay? I think a good example, I gotta do a new share here. If you look at this map right here, this is what happened after renewed imperialism. I mean, I think most of you can see that Western Europeans took over quite a large area of what was the Eastern Hemisphere. All right, so based on this picture and the four factors for renewed imperialism, which one do you think would be strongest here? Okay, if you want to raise your hand, go ahead and do that. Or do you want me to do one for you? I don't see anyone jumping up here. Brooke, what do you think?
Is it the industrialism?
Industrialism. Why do you think that?
Um, just like looking like in the bottom right, it sort of just looks like they have like goods, like in food in the bowls.
Okay.
What I'm seeing.
Yeah, that's a good start. I think it's industrialism too. What other evidence could there be for industrialism here? Kaylee, what do you think?
Industrialism kind of caused like labor, and labor was more frequently used when industrialism like started.
Yeah, and forced labor too, right? It doesn't appear that you've got the white man wearing clothing here, and then you have natives wearing loincloths. So I think there's an element of social Darwinism there, scientific interest also. Lily Dole, why do you think religious revival possibly?
Um, well, I think like the spread of industrialization kind of happened because they were also like going in other parts of the world to convert. And like in this picture, there's white people and then natives. So you could say that they're like trying to convert them to religion or whatever. And one of the causes of uh oh shoot,
Imperialism. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you can. I mean, feasibly, you can say that about anything. But yes, good. It gets you thinking. Okay. Um, let's go ahead and start here. Okay. So, what I want you to do on your piece of paper, get like a blank piece of paper out. Okay, or on your computer, like number 1 through 10. I'd probably just do it on a blank piece of paper. Okay. Um, we're gonna look at 10 or so different pictures, and I want you to, and maybe some poems. We'll look at different stuff, but I want you to put down which force you think is most obvious in each picture. Okay. So we'll call this number 1. If you want to share what you think it is, go ahead and uh, put your hand up so then I can call on you in some kind of controlled fashion. Lucy, what do you think?
I would say that this one again is industrialization because you can see in the picture that I think they're using pulley systems and ladders to get down into this ravine and probably mine stuff. And this is kind of probably an advancement in their time. Like beforehand, those people might have had to go down there and then walk back up, but now they have like pulley systems and other materials to help them.
And they're trying to get materials to sell as well, right? So
Hmm.
capitalism, industrialism, good. Hannah, were you gonna say the same thing?
Yeah.
Okay. This is, I believe, a diamond mine in South Africa. So you're correct. Let's go number 2 here. Moo, what do you think?
I think it's the religious revival because it looked like the people there they're like the person like the person who's talking like the one who's wearing black standing up he looked like he's the pope and like it just looked like they're in church or like doing something
Good,
religious.
good. You're spot on. So this is Methodist Sunday School. Some people could say this is social Darwinism too. They're like trying to basically like force something that's not natural on somebody else because it's the best. But yeah, good. All right. Let's go number 3 here. Um, Brooke, what do you think?
Nationalism, because they're raising the flag.
All right, what flag is that?
I'm not sure.
You know, Hannah?
Is it the British Raj, like the British India? Or no?
It is not. That Iron Cross is the Iron Cross of Prussia. So that's a German flag of the First Reich or of Germany, first unification of Germany. So you probably said something, yeah, to the extent of nationalism. Again, you could also argue industrialism too, trying to gain new land to move forward. All right, so this is a quote. I'm trying to get all this stuff moved so I can see exactly what I'm looking at. So Henry Stanley was basically the first person to, he was the second white person that it's in history books to have traveled to the interior of Africa. And here's what he says. As yet the Congo basin is a blank, a fruitless waste, a desolate and unproductive area. It has been our purpose to fill this blank with life, to redeem this waste, to plant and sow that the dark man may gather, to vivify the wide, wild land so long forgotten by Europe. But cursed be he or they who, animated by causeless jealousy and a spirit of mischief, will compel us to fire our station, destroy our work so conspicuously begun, and abandon Africa to its pristine helplessness and savagery. What do you get out of this poem? Lily, what do you think?
I said like social Darwinism. They're saying that the people in Africa, they're abandoning them because of their savagery, which they're trying to justify their treatment of people who aren't Europeans with science, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And they're saying, oh, we're gonna fill this blank thing with our, our awesome equipment and whatnot, but you're not gonna be able to handle it because you're not smart enough. So very, very racist comment here. We'll talk more about Mr. Stanley tomorrow or Wednesday, whenever we get to it. All right. Let's go number 5 here. Let's get somebody else to participate here. Come on, take a guess. What do we think? What do we think 5 could be? All right, Hannah.
I was thinking industrialization because it looks like the workers are carrying ivory or some sort of wood maybe, and so that's just like them getting resources to them, so just fueling industrialization.
Sure. Products to make pianos or keys for clarinets or combs, hair picks, brooches. Yeah. Also see a sense of scientific interest there too, though. You don't see Europeans carrying that stuff out. All right, this is a map. Take a look at it closely. All right. We got Brooke. What do you think?
I was thinking like religious revival because it has like the unexplored, so they're gonna like go to the places so they can try and convert, like especially for Europeans, like to Christianity.
All right, so you think it says unexplored because they want to go convert there. Okay. Anybody else have a different idea? Okay. I would agree with that. I also do think though that nationalism and the idea that it says unexplored on the map is going to cause other countries to want to go try to claim that land and colonize it. And then I also think that it's a bit of social Darwinism because that land is not unexplored. There are many, many people who live on that land. They're just not white Europeans. And so they're not taking into account the fact that there's already people there. All right, so we're going to ignore the poem on the right because it's deep and we'll read it later. Let's just look at the pear soap. Pear soap was one of the, I'd say it was like one of the most like well-sold, well-marketed soap. And it says the first step towards lightening the white man's burden is through teaching the virtues of cleanliness. Pear soap is a potent factor in brightening the dark corners of the earth as civilization advances. While amongst the cultured of all nations, it holds the highest place. It is the ideal toilet soap. So, which factor do you think is most obvious here? Katya, what do you think?
I would say scientific interest because it's like saying that the white man is superior to other parts of the earth because they're more advanced.
Yeah, and because they have soap, toilet soap. It's like, yeah, this is unbelievably racist. And then you see, the quote unquote blessings of civilization here. Someone dressed up in the corner of the poster giving away soap. So yeah, would agree on that. Let's look at this one. So here we have a poem and then a picture. But the partition of China. Guys, follow along with me here as I read this, please. The heathen Chinese. What a channel for Christian expansion is he. Then ho, for the flowery land of the east, like vultures will swoop on the promising feast. Commission your navies, ye nations so free, to bear the true light of the heathen Chinese. If Russia makes converts, it's perfectly clear we need for converting a well-defined sphere. If Germany's missions hold meetings for prayer, so Christian work 'tis our duty to share. Incidentally, too, there is cash to be made. There's not like religion to stimulate trade. Then come all ye teachers and preachers and fighters, backed up by the press and its wonderful writers. Let's give to this darkened and downtrodden nation a touch of the blessings of civilization. And our Christian maxims will work. You will see a change for the good in that heathen Chinese. So, first off, this is just littered with metaphors here. So, if Russia's going to make converts, we need for converting a well-defined sphere. So that's called spheres of influence. That's how China was divided. This is a mockery of Christianity. German missions hold prayer. Well, then we should go out and spread Christianity. But, oh, yeah, we're going to make money and stimulate trade also. And then he says, bring all ye teachers, preachers, and fighters. And then, oh, yeah, bring on the press and let them lie to the mother countries about what's actually happening. And then the dark and downtrodden nation called China, which has been superior to Europe for thousands of years at this point. We're going to give them a touch of the blessings of civilization. And then our Christian maxims will work. What I told you guys about the Maxim gun earlier, right? Maxim gun's a machine gun. That's our Christian maxims. So that's like saying, oh yeah, we're gonna tell them about Christianity, but we're really just gonna use the machine gun against them, the Maxim gun, and cause them to have a good change. Well, what do you think is strongest here? In the picture, you can see what's happening. China is getting ripped apart by Russia, Germany, France, and then you've got the lion is Great Britain, and then you've got the U.S. as in this Uncle Sam, this little cowboy guy, following him to go in and take stuff. So, what do you think is most obvious in this one? Oh. Come on, somebody help me out here. Brooke, what do you think?
I was gonna say like three of them, like how religious revival, scientific interest, and industrialism, because like they're saying over and over that they want to convert, and like how like converting them is going to be good for them, and then how that leads like the scientific interest that Europeans, it would be better for them to get controlled by them, and then how they're gonna like how in the picture, how like the Europeans are gonna have them do the work and be able to like get profit off of what they're doing and like their resources around them.
Yeah, you definitely see nationalism too, because it's going to end up, being a race to see who gets to do it. You kind of see that in the cartoon. So all four are definitely representative. You can choose which one you think would be strongest. So this class isn't going to go that much longer, so I'm going to go ahead and skip some of the ones that we typically look at. Let's just answer these discussion questions real quick, or think about them. Which force appeared the most? What do you think? Lucy.
I think religious revival like appeared the most because you can see religious revival and kind of like underneath all of like industrialization or like the last one that we saw, like how all four of them were in it. But I think religious revival was the most seen because these people were trying to force kind of their own religion on natives, like so they could become a part of their nation.
Okay, does anybody else have one that they think would fit as what appeared the most other than religious revival? Lily Dole, what do you think?
I think in a lot of them I saw industrialization.
Okay.
Because especially with like if anything involving social Darwinism or scientific, I think that's what it was called. That one, it had like involved like exploitation and like in expanding areas, and then like nationalism involved like expanding areas and industrializing those areas. And
That's good.
then
So capitalistic exploitation certainly went into it too. Okay, I don't mean to cut you off, but let's look at number 4. What perspective was missing from all of these documents? Hannah.
Like the people that were being colonized.
Yeah, the people that had to deal with the Europeans. These are the people that are not represented. Good. Okay, well, usually this activity is a little bit crazy, you know, I don't know, we get more discussion and whatnot. And we also get to look at other pictures, but I have it up on Canvas for you so you can go back and look at some of the political cartoons if you want to. You know, this is a Lipton tea. This is one of the most racist advertisements I've ever seen. And Lipton tea still, you know, is a company to this day, etc. I mean, they show natives in Sri Lanka carrying, you know, the boxes of forced labor, boxes of tea on their head, wearing very little. Okay. I'm gonna have to end this. I'm gonna stop the share for a moment, show you something else. See if I can find it. Yes. Okay, so the only homework we have tonight is I'll share this screen again real quick. I want to make sure we end on a decent time. We had 3 minutes. So the only homework tonight is the chapter 25 notes quiz. It's only 10 questions. It again should not be that difficult. If you read, okay, and you took notes. Make sure you take that tonight, and I need it done by let's say fair game about noon tomorrow at the latest, okay? You're way better off taking it now though, because I guarantee you I went over at least 2 or 3 answers at least in this talk I just gave and what we just went through, okay? If you didn't take the test on the Friday before break, you need to take that test. So then I can I'll go deal with that after 9th period, and I can see what the curve was as well. Congratulate that person tomorrow. Okay, but I think most people in here have done it. Okay, if you know you didn't do it though, please do it. All right, I got 2 minutes left. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, listen to a song, do a little dance. Don't do the other thing in that song. Have fun tonight. No, I'm just kidding. Didn't see that going there. I was trying to follow what they said on the homeroom today, you know? Yeah, so take a brain break for a minute. All right, thanks everybody. Take that quiz tonight. See ya.